What is going on, people? Today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. We're going to be ranking the champion items from S tier all the way to D tier because when I was trying to do the regular ranking list, a lot of people were complaining that they were taking too long, that we didn't need one video on one item. So I said, okay, we're going to just make one video and we're going to rank only the champion items. And then after this one, we'll do the regular items, at least the ones that people generally use, and we'll rank them. And then I'll just give you like a quick rundown as to why I would rank them there. Quick side note, okay, before we get started, first of all, you gotta realize that we're going to be ranking champion items, meaning that there really isn't a bad item here. They're all good in a way because they're just champion items. They're the top of the top outside of like Emperor items, right? So if I say bad, I don't mean like, oh my god, it's like actually bad. It's just not really that great compared to all the other champion items. Okay, another side note, this is my opinion, this is not factual, so therefore I cannot be wrong. But also, if you disagree with something, that means that you're also not wrong, because that's how opinions work. Now, I will say this, if you do disagree with something, I would love for you to put it down in the comment section as to what item you disagree with and why. And keep it civil, okay? You don't gotta be an a-hole to get a point across. With that being said, let's get started. I was kind of debating, right? Like, do I go in order or do I pick some items out specifically and start with those? And what I'm going to do is, I'm going to start with my D tier and my S tier first, because I'm pretty sure I know for sure which items those are. And that will help me kind of put everything else in between. And also, I can change my mind depending on how it looks. Like if I go down the list and I see an item that I'm like, you know what, actually, maybe it shouldn't be B, maybe it should be C. I reserve the right to change my mind on the fly, because we're doing this on the fly anyway. So let's get started with the D tier. Now these are the items that I just think, like, why do you have them, right? Like there really shouldn't be a reason why you have them. First of all, we're going to start with the D tier, and we're going to start with the infantry chest. What can I say about this infantry chest? First of all, when you're talking about the chest, the preferred one is the ranged chest because it offers a lot more HP, which is very, very valuable. Furthermore, this infantry chest isn't even better than the terror chest, or what is it called? The terror shield for infantry blast. So it's not really good for blast. And for mixed, you generally don't want to use it because you're gonna 9 times out of 10 want to use the ranged chest anyway. So you're just kind of left there like, what's the point of even using you? And even if you're gonna use it for like a 208 or something, right? Like you have the Trojan chest right there. That's just as good for that too. So it's like it's just such a weird chest to have, and it's one of those items that I would not recommend making, period. And if you do have it, you're probably not using it much anyway. Let's be honest. Let's be honest. Now, the next item that we're going to go ahead and put in the D tier is the Cavalry Range Helmet. A lot of times I'll say Cavalry Range or something if I don't remember the name, because I'm not looking at the name, but y'all know exactly what I'm talking about. But anyway, the Cavalry Ranged Helmet. Now, why is this down in the D tier? First of all, we have a cavalry helmet that offers a crazy amount of HP. Y'all see kind of like something at that point that I'm making, HP, which is what champion offers. So it kind of already is losing the effectiveness there, right? And some people might think, okay, but 055 is very, very popular now, so why wouldn't somebody want this helm for a 055? Because it's perfect, right? It's got cavalry, it's got range. The problem with it is that the cavalry helmet offers a lot more HP, and when you're doing 055, it's the cavalry that's going to be taking the damage. So you actually want more HP outside of just range attack, cavalry attack. The cavalry helmet is going to be better for 055 overall. And so that kind of leaves this helmet kind of like in limbo, like, what is the point of you even being there? You know, like, what purpose do you serve? So those are the two items that I for sure would put down in D tier. Now let's go ahead and talk about the good ones, right? The really, really good ones. Let's go to the S tier. First of all, infantry boots. There's a lot to go over, but let's keep it simple. Cheapest item to make and to max. Amazing stats, especially for the price. And let's be honest, this was probably the first piece that you made. It was probably the first piece that your friend made. And it was probably the first piece that your friend's friends made. The infantry legs are just amazing. Not only for the cost, but the reason why a lot of people make it is because when you're talking about either wonder battles or just mixed, etc., there is usually one prevalent troop type that you always want at least a decent amount of, and that is infantry. And so when you have the infantry legs, that just way outperforms everything else in the same category, you're gonna have an S tier item. The stats are great, the usefulness pretty much is all over the place, and so that's an S tier item right there. If it was not the first item that you made, you probably went wrong somewhere. So, probably, yeah. The second S tier item is going to be the ranged chest. We were just talking about that not too long ago. The ranged chest, anytime you look at a champion player, right? 9 times out of 10, they're going to be using the ranged chest. If you say no, you're lying. Now, there's a reason for that, and that's because the ranged chest, even though it has a little bit less attack than the other chests, the HP is way higher. Way higher. And when you're talking about wonder battles, defending, etc., HP just holds so much weight. Now, you don't always just want to stack HP by itself. You do want a decent amount of attack stats to kind of match the HP as well. But that's what Champion does really well. It offers good amount of attack and it offers a boatload of HP. If you ever take a look at like the regular items compared to Champion, a lot of times it's not necessarily the attack that separates them, it's the HP. So, this ranged chest is just amazing across the board, and it is probably 90% of the chosen chest piece that everybody goes with when they're building Champion. Now, if you have multiple chest pieces, then that's great, but you probably made the range one first, and if you didn't, you messed up. There is a third item for the S tier, and that is the Cav helm. Let's talk about this helm really quickly. It's kind of the same principle as the ranged chest. It offers similar stats than the other helms, but this one offers way more HP for your army. And so what ends up happening is that this helm becomes a vital part of a lot of people's setup, because take a look at this. We have infantry legs, we have a ranged chest, and a lot of times what people do is, if you're not building any of the accessories, you go with 3 cups. Now, what are you super heavy on? Infantry range. Just infantry range across the board. You need some cav. And that's where this cavalry helmet comes in clutch, because not only does it give you a huge boost in cavalry stats, but also the army HP is amazing. And so that alone, the higher HP stat, and also it's a great addition for those that are using 3 cups. It's an S tier helmet. Even things like 442, there are people that even use this helm 4442. So this is just an S tier item. So I think that's gonna be all my S tier items and my D tier items, and now we can kind of fill in the blanks, like where everything else is. And so maybe now I'll kind of like go straight through. So we have the champion. Is this the champion blade? I'm not really sure. It's the infantry range sword. I'm gonna put this one in A. Couple of reasons why. I don't believe that any of the swords are just way far and ahead over any of the other items. They all have their usefulness. And this infantry range sword definitely is one of the better ones, because it gives you more options as far as what you can do, whether it's wonder battles, whether it's defending, etc. Because infantry and range is a very popular option because you have the 4-4, which is going to be heavy on infantry, and so this comes into play. And then of course 4-4-2, 9-9-2, etc. This would literally be the ideal sword for that. And so I think A is definitely the best place to put this sword in, because it's not way head above and shoulders over everything else, but it's definitely up there as far as usefulness. The blessing. Now also remember, the accessories are all great, but we're just comparing as far as everything else, right? I think the blessing, I'm gonna put the blessing at B. Let me explain. Blessings are great to have, absolutely. The main issue with blessings is that if you make the blessing, a lot of times it's just kind of more of the same stats of like if you have cups, right? And so if you're going to be running an account that only have 3 accessories, I would stay away from blessings, because here's what's going to happen. You're going to have an accessory slot that doesn't have any cavalry stats. Hello? And so you're gonna start having to run into the issue of, do I run a drum, or do I run some other accessory? Whereas you can just get the 3 cavalry accessories, and then anything infantry range related you can use cups for. And so the blessing kinda defeats the purpose, and so many people already have cups. And while the blessings are definitely better than cups, the difference really is not that crazy when you compare the usefulness as another accessory, like a faith, for instance. So I'll put the valor or the blessing at B, but I mean, if you do have them, they're really, really good. Just you could have done better. The range legs, you know. That's tough. Where would I put the ranged legs? I'm gonna put them at B. A couple of reasons why. It's cheap, so even if you don't really use it for too much, it's still really, really useful. But a lot of times what ends up happening is that ranged blast, I'm sure you guys already know, ranged blast is probably the least needed blast, because even with okay stats, you're still going to do crazy damage if you run into cavalry. So range is that one blast that you don't necessarily have to try to go all out to max out, because if you hit the right thing, you're going to do damage regardless. And so it kind of makes these legs kind of like, it's okay to have, but not really like a necessity type of thing. And so they're great. And then there's a couple of niche things that you can probably use it on, like 055, etc. But overall, it's not like an item that's a must-have type of item or anything like that. But for sure, it's not like a terrible item like the ones in D. So I think B is a good place for them. I might change my mind later, but at the moment, I feel like B is the right place for them. Okay, so we have the champion. What's this called? Kuras? Anyway, the calf chest. I'm debating between B and C for the calf chest, and you know what I'm gonna actually go ahead and do? I'm gonna put it in C. I'm gonna put it in C. I might change my mind later as well, but hear me out. The calf chest is a great item, especially if you're going to be using it for like a 208. You can even use it in like mixed, etc. But if you're doing mixed, the ranged chest generally is gonna be better regardless. So already kind of takes a hit, but it is definitely useful if you are doing things like a 208 and, you know, other stuff like that. But generally speaking, because the firewall plate is so close to the stats of this one, it's almost like do you really want to do that? And not only that, the firewall plate is so much easier to Astra 12 compared to this chest. A lot of times it probably makes you think, damn, okay, is it really that much better? Because it really isn't. It's a good piece, but it's only like a really good piece if you're not really working on a budget. If you're just maxing everything out, then maybe it's better. But if you're in some sort of budget, firewall plate to mythic and then Astra 12 will give you a lot more stats for the money than this one, and the stats are very comparable. And so I think C is the right spot for this one at the moment. The calf sword, straight to A. Now, there's a couple of reasons why I value the swords higher, right? But let's talk about the calf sword specifically. The calf sword, once again, if you're one of these 5-piece champion that are rocking 3 cups, the calf sword is the one that makes it all come together, right? Because you're going to be so heavy on infantry range from all the other pieces, and your big calf items are going to be the helm and the sword. And that's what would make your set very good for like a 4-4-2 or something of the sort. The calf sword just kind of brings it all together, and it's really good. Not only that, but it also helps in so many other things. First of all, it's great for 055. Second of all, it's great for 208. Third of all, is great for any sort of like 4-2-4 variant. You see where I'm going with this? Like, it's just really good. It's great for a calf blast if that's what you're working on. Like, it is a very, very good sword. And I think A tier for sure. The swords is where they belong at the moment because they're just that good. Now we get to the one that I'm really debating, right? Like, the accessories, right? This is the one that you're gonna normally see most people use, and I'm kind of debating between S and A tier. S and A tier. Right now, I feel like I'm gonna put it in S. I'm gonna put it in S. Couple of reasons why. First of all, again, if you're a person that's building champ and you're using the 3 cups, the faith is probably the one accessory that you for sure want. There's a couple of reasons why. 4-4, and not even just 4-4, but any 4-4 variant, whether it's 5-6-9, 6-5-9, 9-5-6, whatever it is, any sort of 4-4 variant, it's gonna rely heavily on having faiths because they are that good. Infantry calf, amazing. Another thing is that if you get this, your blasts are also going to be looking even better. And in my opinion, the blasts that are the most important, like we touched on before, was infantry and cavalry. Those are the most important ones. And this faith covers you for both. And that way you don't have to worry about building any other accessory or whatever. And so you can have these 3 faiths. And then for range, you can just go ahead and keep your cups. So it kind of fits the bill of what it is that you need. And it's just... accessories overall are just so good, but there's a reason why you see the faiths everywhere, and it's because it feels too many needs compared to the other ones that don't feel as many needs. So you know what? For now, the faith is going to stay S tier. And honestly, if you take a look at this whole S tier, tell me this is not some of the more popular items that you see, and that's for a reason. They are, generally speaking, better overall than their counterparts. So we'll go ahead and stick with that. So we got here to the calf range sword. For this one, I'm gonna go with C. And there's really only one reason why I would put it in C. This sword, before 055 was really popular, probably would have gotten to D. But now that 055 is one of the go-tos for people that aren't like a crazy account that are trying to compete with somebody above them, this sword is really, really strong for a 055. And that alone dug it from the D tier up to the C tier. Because before, you didn't really see anybody with this sword because it served no purpose. If you wanted calf stats, you go with the calf hand. If you wanted range, you have the infantry range. And so it kind of was just in the middle of nowhere doing nothing. But now with 055, I definitely do think it's up to a C because it's giving people more of a puncher's chance against those bigger accounts. And so I think that this is a C. Notice the big difference between the A tier swords and the C. And that's what I'm talking about. Their stats are generally the same. There's really not like a big change in stats. So the reason why one is so much lower than the other is just its usefulness in the meta at the moment. Now, maybe a year from now, the meta has completely swapped and some of these items are more useful than ever. But at the moment, I do feel that the sword, even though it's okay, I think it's C. It doesn't really have much of a place outside of a 055. The calf legs. I think the calf legs are also going to be B. Calf legs are really, really solid for, of course, the calf blast, 208. And there are some people that that use it for 055. Although, you know, if you have the ranged legs, you generally want to use that instead. But if you don't, then these are a good option. But it's just one of those legs that it's really solid, it's really cheap, and it definitely has its usefulness. Now, for Wonder Wars, you don't see it as much, just because if you're boosting your calf stats, you generally want to have your helm, the sword, and then if you also go the legs as well, that's kind of heavy, a little too heavy on the calf stat. And then any sort of like 055 or even some sort of calf blast will probably beat you. And so that's why you see the infantry legs used way more. But the calf legs, definitely really good. And I can see an argument between any of the legs going up to A tier, if I'm being honest. So if you think that any of these legs are A tier, I wouldn't really disagree too hard on you for that. But I just feel like the swords are definitely a tier above these legs. So that's what we're sticking with for now. We'll revisit this later, but we'll see. Then we have the Qatar. The Qatar is also one of those items that has definitely seen more play recently. And it can be used for a calf blast. So for that alone, I think I'm going to put it on the C tier. Although it's definitely on the lower end of the C tier. Like this chest right here is way better than that. But the one thing that's kind of rescued it from that is that you can use it for a calf blast, and it's actually really, really well. And it also gives you a bit of flexibility when you're making your mix sets. Whether you're going to go like 424 or something a little bit higher, like a 569. I can see you using this offhand instead of another one. But if this was probably like last year, this Qatar would have been in the D tier, because there really isn't much of a usefulness for it. But there is just enough at the moment to where it can be C tier, but bottom of the C tier. I just don't think it's as bad as the D one, so we won't do that. Okay, I believe, is this the lamp or the light? I think this is the lamp. I'm not sure. The lamp. I think the lamp I'm gonna put in B tier. The lamp is very, very good, especially for those using 442 or 992, for instance. But it's definitely not the one that people generally use, just because, again, we touch on the cups again. A lot of people that are building the 5-piece champ, they will rather make the infantry cav offhand, because their infantry and range stats are going to be way too high, because you have the cups, you have the inflex, you have the ranged chest. And so if you add this item as well, your infantry and range stats are just going to be way too high compared to anything else. And so that's why you don't really see this one around as much. But it is still very, very good for, like I mentioned, 992, 442, and range blast as well. Don't sleep on the range blast. It's actually really good for range blast. And so this is actually pretty good. I would leave it in B tier. Not too shabby. Okay, then we get to the most used offhand. And that is the infantry cav offhand. And this one I will put in the A tier. Rehashing essentially the same points. This goes perfectly with the S tier items. So you have the infantry boots, range chest, cavalry helm, and then you have the infantry and cav accessories. Well, this, especially if you're using the cups, this is going to be the perfect way to kind of round out your stats with a little bit of extra cavs and infantry. So you have your range and your infantry from the cups and the boots and the chest, and then you try to get as much cav from your main hand, your helm, and now your offhand. And if you guys notice, when you're talking about wonder battles, a lot of comps, if not all of them, are somehow heavy infantry. The only comp that isn't probably heavy infantry is like a 208 or a 055, but they're not really mixed. They're more blast. But any sort of comp, whether it's 992, 442, 424, etc., they're going to have a decent amount of infantry. And so this really comes in handy in that case. So I really like it in my A tier. Now we get to the Valor. The Valor, I honestly also think that is going to be in the B tier. Somewhere here. Once again, it's a cav range accessory, so the cav part of it is already kind of there for you, so you're good to go. But the reason you're not really seeing this one as much right now is because of the mix comps that people use. Like we just talked about, a lot of these comps use infantry. And so if you're using accessories that don't have infantry stats, it's not going to be as effective. Now, I might bump this up to a B, and if you want to bump it up to a B, I can definitely see it, just because 055 is so prevalent now that if you have 3 of this with your 055, you are going to be hitting really, really solid. But if we're being honest, there's really not a lot of people that have 3 of these and 3 of these, and just you know, if you're balling on a budget, if you will, you're more than likely only going to have maybe 1 or 2 of these. And so I think the usefulness is there for 055 specifically, even mixed. But just keep in mind that if you're doing mixed, you probably will need to supplement your infantry stats somewhere else, because you're going to be missing the infantry stats here. And even though this does give you army stats, you definitely will still want some infantry. And then the very last item, the infantry range helmet. This one I will also put in the B category. This helm seems to really only be used for any 442 or 992 variant. Outside of that, you don't really see it a lot. I mean, you can see it sometimes in like infantry blasts. So its usefulness has been kind of going down a bit, but it is still B tier just because the 442 or 992 comps are still so popular, especially now that 055 is also really popular. How do you stop a 055? Well, you go some sort of 442 or 992 variant, and in that case, this helm is almost always used, and so it would definitely be a B tier at the moment. And so let me go ahead and take another look down of this tier list. Let's see if there's anything that I would change. Like I mentioned before, if you have any of these like B tiers that you would move up to an A tier, I can definitely see that, and I wouldn't argue with you on that. If you want to move any of the legs to A tier, I would completely be okay with that. If you want to move the Qatar to D, I feel like that's a little bit harsh considering, but if you want to make that argument, I can definitely see that. And I guess the other argument you can make is that the accessory should be A tier, but just remember, it's not just about how good the items are, it's also how accessible is the item, how much is it used. There's a couple other things that you need to take into account, because think about it, the legs are never going to be better than like any of the accessories, but taking everything into account, it's definitely up there. So this is my tier list. Let me know if you guys agree or you disagree. There you go, one whole video, about 30 minutes long. Is that better than one video covering one item? I don't know. Probably nobody even made it this far anyway, for being honest. So that's my tier list. Let me know down in the comment section what you agree with, what you would change. And I think I'm gonna also make a tier list of just the regular gear that you see normally people use for like blasts, etc., and see how that goes. Yeah, like I said, leave your comments down below and let me know what you guys think. Hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't, etc., etc. CaE and L0F are both recruiting, so make sure that you check the comment section for more information on that. And yeah, until later, bye.